Hello, everyone. The US government is about to crank up the money printer with QE, quantitative easing. We're talking full-blown cash creation mode here. Now, all those treasuries they're scooping up, yeah, they're heading to blockchain eventually, which makes you think, who's going to be the blockchain partner that helps the government roll out this massive digital transformation? My bet? XRP and Ripple are prime candidates for this job. Look, I've got a clip to show you in a moment, but let me break down the actual roadmap first. What needs to fall into place before the US can run treasuries through the XRP ledger? Because trust me, this isn't some far-off fantasy. It's coming. All right, let's get into it. And hey, I'm loaded with fresh Ripple and XRP intel today. Tokenization is on the agenda. We're watching an asset class that's ready to skyrocket. Listen, there's a crazy amount of activity happening in the background right now. This video is your catch-up session. No fluff, just the updates you need. So X-Finance Bull posted something interesting. Here's what he's saying. XRP holders, Powell has already said that they'll be adding reserves to the Fed's balance sheet. Remember when Trump mentioned the US had a crypto stockpile and XRP was a part of it? Ripple is not just another startup. It's a US-born solution to a quadrillion-dollar global payments problem, and it's led by people who've met with presidents and policy architects like Brad Garlinghouse and Stuart Alderod. XRP already has legal clarity, enterprise utility, and real adoption. And now the Fed is preparing for the next monetary phase, one where digital reserves aren't optional. What if XRP is not just surviving regulation, but positioned for integration? Listen to this.
So you're right. The place we'll be on December 1 is that the size of the balance sheet is frozen. And as mortgage-backed securities mature, we'll reinvest those in treasury bills, which will foster both a more treasury balance sheet and also a shorter duration. So that's what. In the meantime, if you freeze the size of the balance sheet, the non-reserve liabilities, currency, for example, they're going to continue to grow organically. And because the size of the balance sheet is frozen, you have further shrinkage in reserves. And reserves is the thing that we're managing that has to be ample. So that'll happen for a time, but not a tremendously long time. We don't know exactly how long. But at a certain point, you'll want to start reserves to start gradually growing to keep up with, the size of the banking system and the size of the economy. So we'll be adding reserves at a certain point, and that's the last point. Even then, we didn't make decisions about this today, but we did talk today about the composition of the balance sheet, and there's a desire that the balance sheet be right now it's got a lot more duration than the outstanding universe of Treasury securities. And we want to move to a place where we're closer to that duration. That'll take some time. We haven't made a decision about the ultimate endpoint, but we all agree that we want to move more in the direction of a balance sheet that more closely reflects the outstanding treasuries, and that means a shorter duration balance sheet. Now, this is something that's going to take a long time and move very, very gradually. I don't think you'll notice it in market conditions, but that's the direction of things.
Okay, so short-term treasuries, let me paint this picture for you. Treasuries, as we know them, they stretch out over a year, 3 years, sometimes 10, even 30 years into the future. But what's being floated around now is totally different. We're talking 90-day windows, like blink and it's done kind of short. That's the vibe he's giving off with these signals. But here's where my mind starts racing. Rolling out a fresh system like this, you'd basically need settlement to happen in a snap, wouldn't you? We're envisioning an entire trading ecosystem where these treasuries move around freely. Doesn't matter if it's Tuesday afternoon or Saturday at 3 a.m. Every day without exception. Now let's dig into what's actually going down. Current QE and blockchain trends. Powell has confirmed that the Fed's balance sheet runoff is ending, and the monetary policy is pivoting back towards expansion and liquidity, with traditional means purchasing treasuries and injecting funds into the US financial system. So this is what keeps me up at night. What if those funds start flowing into XRP, or spreading across different blockchain assets? Could that actually become reality? Real-world pilots have already shown US treasuries and government securities can be tokenized and settled on blockchain infrastructure. Notably, over the summer of 2025, a consortium of financial institutions successfully executed real-time on-chain financing tokenized U.S. treasuries against USDC, with instant atomic settlement even outside traditional market hours. U.S. government is actively exploring and piloting blockchain and financial management asset transfers and audit processes, with multiple agencies studying implementation challenges and cybersecurity considerations. The White House's 2025 digital asset policy explicitly prioritizes building the world's leading blockchain-powered capital markets infrastructure, which means treasuries are about to go blockchain native. And they're going to distribute this across multiple networks for sure. You can't just throw everything onto a single chain and hope for the best. So you're sitting there piecing it together. USDC is obviously in play here. My gut says every USD stablecoin that exists is going to get woven into this somehow. And there's probably some Solana infrastructure in the conversation too. I won't pretend I've got the full download on that part, but here's what I am tracking. The XRP ledger, that's getting eyeballs on it from the right people. I know USDC is catching some major eyeballs right now, and it makes you sit back and think, just how enormous could this thing balloon up to be? And what's the timeline we're talking about here? Okay, so why XRP and what could it enable? Because listen, that's the question that's been burning in my mind. The XRP ledger is already recognized as a robust system for tokenized on a broad array of real-world assets, including debt instruments, bonds, and securities. In 2025, tokenized real-world asset transactions on the XRP ledger grew 2,200%. Asia and parts of Europe are piloting government bonds directly on ledgers. Stop and process that for a moment. We're not talking theory here. This is live. This is real. This is happening in Europe as we speak. They've already cracked the code and it's operational. The US can basically peek across the pond and realize, hang on a minute, they've been testing this out in Europe for an entire year now? Fantastic. Let's implement the exact same framework. Oh, and here's a fun tidbit. Garlinghouse has been inside the White House 4 separate times just in this calendar year. Garlinghouse literally just wrapped up a face-to-face with Patrick Witt, you know, the guy calling the shots on crypto policy inside the White House. Start piecing this puzzle together in your head, yeah? Now, the document mentions Ripple has direct partnerships with central banks and CBDC pilots. Here's where it gets juicy. We're talking about more than 24 CBDC pilot programs actively running worldwide, but we've only got real, verifiable details on roughly 6, maybe push it to 7 of them. Everything else, buried under confidentiality agreements and locked vaults. We have zero clue which central banks Ripple's actually teaming up with behind closed doors. So naturally, your brain starts spinning. Is it happening somewhere in the EU? Could France be in the mix? Is the Bank of England involved? The list of potential partners just keeps growing. XRP Ledger offers built-in issuance tools, account set trust line, fast settlement for low transaction costs, and regulatory alignment, making it a candidate to host government securities either directly or through interoperability of other blockchains. What a blockchain-based QE market could look like on the XRP Ledger: the US Treasury or Fed could issue tokenized Treasury securities directly on the XRP Ledger or similar blockchains, creating digital assets that represent T-bills, notes, and bonds. Institutions, dealers, and even the Fed could interact with these tokenized assets using smart contracts that enforce settlement, compliance, margin, and collateralization rules in real time. On-chain purchase and settlement would mean instant 24/7 access, global time zones, weekend trading, and total transparency in the allocation and the movement of liquidity. All right, so picture this. The regulators aren't sitting on the sidelines anymore. They're actually plugged into the network, watching everything unfold in real time. Why does that matter? Because suddenly fraud becomes incredibly hard to pull off, and risk just starts melting away from the system. That's been their goal from day one, right? The Fed's QE operations could, in theory, be executed on-chain by tokenizing treasuries directly in a digital market where all flows and ownership are transparent and programmable, dramatically reducing the settlement. Larry Fink basically laid it out for us. Every stock, every bond, the whole market is heading toward blockchain. That's not a maybe, that's happening. So now comes the big question. Who in the US can actually build something this massive? The options, Pretty slim, honestly. Stellar doesn't have the horsepower for this kind of operation. Plus, they're missing those crucial institutional ties. Circle might squeeze into the conversation, sure, but when you zoom out and look at the full picture, there's really just one company with the infrastructure, the partnerships across the globe, and the credibility right here at home to execute on this vision. I think you know exactly where I'm going with this. Ripple's the one. And when it comes to the assets that can actually make this work, XRP and RLUSD are sitting at the top of that list. Look, imagine this scenario for a second. Investors from different countries are pouring money into US treasuries, and when it's time to cash out, they obviously want their money back in their home currency, yeah? So you're talking about converting from dollars to yen, euros, whatever it might be. Now, if you need lightning fast settlement with something sitting in between to make it all happen, honestly, nothing on the market even comes close. The XRP ledger ecosystem, these QE purchase government securities could be used as high-quality collateral supporting DeFi activities, lending, repo derivatives, scaling liquidity, while introducing needed monetary and compliance tools. Guess who just got themselves wired into the repo market? Guess who's now playing in the derivative space? Ripple, and oh yeah, Ripple. This is massive. Pay attention to these details, folks. Whenever you catch yourself thinking, can this project actually deliver on that? Or is that company capable of doing this? Simple test, check if they've got repo market access. See if they're involved in derivatives trading. You following? Plus, do they offer on-chain lending and borrowing capabilities? Because here's the reality. You need every single one of these components working together to actually pull this off. But wait, there's more to this puzzle. Compliance has to be baked into the system, yeah? And we're talking massive liquidity here. When you start checking off the requirements, you'll realize the list of blockchains that actually measure up is pretty tiny. Okay, that whole thing just blew my mind a little bit. Anyway, I want to pivot real quick because I've got some other footage lined up that's absolutely worth watching. This next one, Hunter Horsley runs Bitwise as their CEO, and he's diving into something he calls the death of an ETF. Listen what he has to say.
The ETF would outperform the Sol one that we just spoke about?
I think it'll be a huge product. There's a ton of interest in XRP, my colleague Matt Hogan, our CIO, likes to say that the death of an ETF is apathy, and apathy is certainly not one of the elements of XRP. There's a lot of energy and interest and enthusiasm, so I think there's $100+ trillion that live on traditional rails. And more of that is migrating on-chain, but nevertheless, there's $100 trillion there. An ETF is often the first time that much of those assets can tap into exposure to an asset, and I think if they have the opportunity to have exposure to and trade XRP, it'll be a very useful and high-demand product.
2024.
Think about the sheer scale here. $100 trillion getting pulled out of these ancient financial systems and migrated onto blockchain infrastructure. What's the pattern we always see at the beginning? ETFs show up as the first wave. Then boom, everything else follows in rapid succession. And Securitize just came out saying virtually identical stuff. The tokenized asset space is about to explode. This was all over Yahoo Finance, by the way. Pay close attention to this next bit and listen to this.
Securitize is the first company of its kind to go public via a SPAC deal with Cantor Fitzgerald Equity Partners II.
Securitize is IPOing.
Going public at a $1.25 billion valuation.
Institutions want access to like some investment themes or narratives, and they need the right vehicle to do it. Like real world assets is one of those narratives.
There is a secular tailwind right now behind tokenization. A lot of people believe, and I'm one of them, that the tokenized asset space is going to absolutely explode.
It's a good time for them to IPO, right?
Yes.
They might get some of that love for TradFi that went into Circle.
Everyone in crypto is like, I'm bearish Circle.
The revenue doesn't justify it.
And then at 5x because people needed exposure to stablecoins.
The Securitize could be like, well, we have the next thing, which is real world assets.
And now if people want exposure to real world assets, they can do this.
Tokenize the world. Tokenize the world. The world. Tokenize the world. Tokenize the world.
Time to tokenize the world. Yeah, you heard that right. Tokenize the whole thing. So check it out. We're diving into these clips now. When demand collides with access, magic happens. Take a listen.
Everyone should be unbelievably excited. It's all happening now. This space for the first time is going mainstream in 2025. Part of going mainstream means that there are people coming on board, incredible institutions here at Swell who are building services, integrating, but they're mainstream by definition because they're doing other things also. I have never seen it feel as inevitable as it does right now in this year that crypto is arriving to update the financial system and will be a mainstream asset class.
There it is, folks. Perfect. Now we've got another clip coming at you. Let's dive right in and listen to what we've got here.
I would love to see billions in brand new assets that have never existed before that we can now bring on chain because of tokenization, where the operational frictions of being able to administer them at scale, things like IP rights, sports team ownership, right? Things like this. I hope that we're able to have billions of brand new assets that never existed before. Amen.
I absolutely love it. Man, that just hits different. You know, I'm all in on that. And hey, speaking of great conversations, we've got Adina of Friedman sitting down with Monica Long right here. Take a listen.
We want to do it the right way. Our U.S. markets are incredibly resilient, extremely scaled, extremely inexpensive for investors. Let's keep that. Let's keep all those great things. And then let's put the technology in where we can actually reduce friction.
And here's where we bring in tech to smooth out all those rough edges. All right, you're looking at the CEO of Schuman here. These guys at Schuman Financial, they just went live with a digital euro running on the XRP ledger. Let me show you what they're saying.
Fundamentally, we think of stablecoins as becoming the most essential core infrastructure of financial services. We all in this room see, believe, know that financial services are moving on-chain. They will inevitably end up on-chain because it's just a much better technology for moving and storing financial value.
Okay, let's keep this moving. I want to share some bonus details with you super fast. Hey, the fact that you're still here, that means you're finding real value in this content. Quick favor, go ahead and tap that like button because it actually makes a huge difference in helping me connect with more awesome folks like yourself. Reality check. XRP holders are a specific group, so there's a natural ceiling to how far this channel can expand. But here's where you come in. Your engagement changes everything and makes building this community way more possible. Seriously, thank you for sticking around. Schuman Financial has formed a notable partnership with Ripple to launch the first MECA-compliant Euro stablecoin. Is called Europe on the XRP ledger, establishing connections between Ripple and the XRP across the European on-chain finance and tokenization. Schuman Financial chose Ripple XRP Ledger as the foundational blockchain for Europe, citing XRP Ledger's compliance, audibility, speed, and deep liquidity for core reasons. This is why other companies and businesses and banks are going to choose the same thing. Schuman's senior leadership, including the CEO Martin Brunkel, appeared on Ripple, produced podcasts and panels, and highlighting the integration for cross-border payments and institutional treasury solutions. So there's more details popping up here, everyone. I won't bore you by going line by line, but honestly, this is pretty exciting stuff. We actually dug into this topic way back when it first hit the headlines. Here's where we're at. ETFs are literally knocking on the door right now. Look, I get it. We've been the boy who cried wolf saying any day now, forever. But this time it's different because they're legitimately happening. What could possibly derail this train? Only one scenario. The SEC suddenly deciding to become the market police and choosing which coins get special treatment. But Litecoin already sailed through approval. Hedera, done deal. So blocking XRP ETFs at this point, that makes absolutely no sense. Their whole mandate is keeping the playing field level and accessible. Imagine if they actually rejected this. The fallout would be nuclear for crypto as a whole. My prediction, green light incoming. November is shaping up to be one for the history books. Now, take a peek at these numbers. The money these big institutions control is mind-blowing. $5 billion over here, $200 million in that corner, $7 billion from this group, Wisdom Tree crushing it with $113 billion, and ProShares, a cool $70 billion under their roof. Grayscale's clocking $40 billion. CoinShares, they've landed at $5 billion. Volatility Shares matching pace, another $5 billion. Franklin Templeton, though, brace yourself, they're operating at $1.7 trillion. Hashtags carved out $1 billion, and 2 Crims working with $320 million. The pressure's building, folks. This industry is starting to boil over right before our eyes. Real talk, I'm pumped you clicked on this and stuck around. If this gave you anything worth your time, help me out. Hit like, send this to your crypto buddies, and jump on that subscribe button if you haven't yet. Flip that bell on too, you know the drill. Here's where I plant my flag. I'm tracking down the sharpest XRP, Ripple, and crypto insights from across the map and serving them up to you consistently. Go dominate your week out there. Honored you gave me these few minutes. Catch you on the next video.